Chris and Larry joining us as well, so they'll jump in. All right. Okay, so go ahead and turn off your cameras and your microphones, and we'll get started. If you would like to join us on these slides and see the slideshow, you can go to bit.ly/zoomloom, which will also be in the chat to click on. If you are not seeing the slideshow in a large format, you may need to turn off your grid view just to make sure that you're seeing the slides. Great, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I forgot to say that yesterday. And then I did want to say that if you were watching live or you watched the video from yesterday, there were so many good questions about what's going to happen with Google Classrooms over the summer, and lots of good tips and questions about Google Classrooms. So there is a link there on this slide, another bit.ly/classroom questions LO. And that's also posted on losdlogic.org, which I'm sure Chris will put in the chat at some point soon, so that you can see the responses to your questions. And if you asked a question and it's not on that sheet, please do email one of us and we'll add it to make sure all those questions from yesterday get answered. All right.
Okay, well,
Miranda,
sorry, Miranda.
I guess this one is on my, so we've been talking about the last 2 days about REAL, real, and teaching online and forming relationships, making meaningful connections with students. So our presentation today is focused on 2 tools, though there are lots of alternatives. Zoom and Loom are not the only ways to do this. Oh, the question doc. Okay. It might be set to only those at Lake Oswego can view, so just make sure you're logged in with your district email, or I'll go, okay, I'll need to go fix that, or someone will soon. Okay, so making connections with students, one way to do that is using live interactions. We've been doing that with Google Meet, but we will also have the option to use Zoom, so we're going to talk about that. And how do you offer multiple modes of learning and feedback? And so one way you can do that is with screencasting and some of the video tools. So those are the 2 things that we're focused on today.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot this week about learning with kids live in real time, that synchronous learning that takes place immediately with real-time instruction, face-to-face conversations. Maybe you're meeting in groups or whole class. Maybe you're holding office hours. Perhaps you're doing a slide presentation, weekly check-ins. It's that personal, immediate, live interface with kids, that synchronous. So those tools could be Zoom, or it could continue to be Google Meet. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Zoom, which the district is getting for us next year. So it really was a coincidence that Zoom and Loom rhyme. We didn't plan to have our presentation be Zoom Loom, but Loom can address that asynchronous learning later with video. So it's going to be a screencasting tool that you can use. And we've had a lot of feedback from teachers and students about kids being able to watch in their own time using a flexible schedule. So this asynchronous learning might be also you recording yourself with Pear Deck, with slides, doing a demo, and then the students can watch and re-watch it as needed. And it could include videos, Flipgrid responses, and it takes place over periods of time.
Great. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that we got some great information. There was a survey of high school students And this is just some of the results, which doesn't relate so much to this presentation, but about posting work on Google Classroom, when do they like it posted, all of that. And there's a link to that, and I also put it on the losdlogic.org page under the secondary student panel, which is a really great video to watch if you have some time. It's students talking about their experience with distance learning. But on the next slide, you'll see that one survey question was, would you like it if there were live Google meetings, or now Zoom, that everyone in the class was required to attend? And I thought it was interesting that students were split on that. A lot said maybe, a lot said no. Only a few were definitively like, yes, I would like to see my whole class more often on Google Meets. So that was interesting data.
So, so coming soon, the district is getting us district Zoom accounts, and we will have specific privacy settings and policies to use when we're working with students on Zoom. In the meantime, anybody can get a free Zoom account, and you can try it out. I've been doing a lot of Zoom with family members around the country. Just know that you won't have some of the features that we're going to talk about on that free account. And we will definitely talk about this cool little thumbnail that you see there of me within the screen, because that is a feature that we've really been liking.
Yeah, the backgrounds are also fun. Obviously, we were playing with those, and but you can see one of my favorite things is I can have the person I'm talking to kind of floating, or a panel of people kind of floating above my slides or whatever work that I'm doing. So like I was able to work on these slides and also drag that little thumbnail around and see Carrie while I was talking. We've been doing some workarounds like split screen when we're doing Google Meets with one or just a couple of students, but that is a nice option with the Zoom software.
Mm-hmm. And so many people might be asking, can you still use Google Meet? Yes, the answer is yes. Google Meet is still available. It is an easy way to hold office hours. And of course, many of you and the students are used to Google Meet by now. It's a great way to hold an impromptu quick meeting. Still, you can use it to work one-on-one or with small groups. It works well because it's a Google product with your calendar and your Google Classroom. Please note that the record feature, recording your meeting, like what we're doing now with this session, may not be available after September 30th. But you could record your meeting using Loom.
Okay, so what are some of the advantages to Zoom? And we'll talk about some of the disadvantages too, which is mostly it's more complex and you have to do some setup and all of that. But you will just have more control of your audience. So for example, if you wanted to mute all of your students and say you can't unmute yourself, that is something you'll be able to do with Zoom. If you want to set up a waiting room so that you have to let students in, we can do that. You can privately message a particular student during a meeting. You could lock the meeting. Just generally better management of large groups, because it just has so many more features than Google Meet, which is pretty simple. So you can see we have a little screenshot there of me waiting for Carrie to let me in to her meeting. And then she could also remove me if she chose, and I can't re-enter. So just lots more ways to make sure you're managing your students in your class. Somebody just asked, can students privately message each other? You can set that to no, and that would be the recommended setting. That no, we won't let students message each other. There's so many privacy settings and controls, so that is something we'll have to work on, making sure those are set correctly by default.
Mm-hmm. And there's another question about the time frame of getting our Zoom accounts, and we don't know. I know there are all kinds of decision makers right now working on the budget and working things out, but we'll know when you know. There's another question about breakout rooms, and we are going to get to that in a couple slides.
Yeah. So more advantages of Zoom, breakout rooms, which someone just mentioned, and we'll show some screenshots of that, and that is really, really cool. We've been playing with that. That floating thumbnail I mentioned, if you're doing small group or one-on-one meetings, having that thumbnail is really nice and not having to do the split screen. Carrie looks, I might be boring her in that picture a little bit, but if I had multiple students, I could have a row of them going down the screen as I'm doing something else and showing them something. There is some nonverbal feedback. So you can see those buttons there. Students could respond yes or no, or go slower, go faster, lots more options. And we don't have to install an additional Chrome extension. Like we had to add nod in order for people to raise their hands or do a thumbs up. So we won't have to do that with Zoom. You can record your session in Zoom. However, we have limited storage in the Zoom cloud, so you will be downloading that recording to your computer and then uploading it to Drive or YouTube or wherever you need to have it. So that is maybe not quite as easy as getting an email with your recording as you do with Google Meet, but definitely you'll be able to record. And then one nice feature that a teacher pointed out to me yesterday was if you want to unmute, a student can just press the space and hold the space bar to talk, which eliminates some of the fumbling to turn on and off the microphone. So lots more controls and features than Google Meet, which is very simple and limited.
So Zoom also has screen sharing, and the features are quite nice and easy to use. There is a setting where more than one person can screen share at a time. You can turn that on or off. You can also, the host can just control the screen sharing or give the option to one of the other participants. You can share your desktop just like in Google Meet, or there is a built-in whiteboard that you can use to demo. And then for those of you who have iPads, you can share your iPad screen via AirPlay or plugged in with a cable. And that's a nice way to do a demonstration as well. And there are annotation tools to draw, etc. Please note that I don't believe the annotation tools are on the free account, so I don't think you'd see those if you were experimenting this summer with a free account.
Great.
Okay, Zoom's disadvantages. We've already talked about a lot of settings, so there are many, many options that setting up Zoom and using all of its features can be confusing. There are lots of behind the scenes controls to turn on and off. The security settings need to be carefully managed just to avoid problems, so we want to have that all in place before using it. It's not quite as Google friendly, like Miranda mentioned, you know, you're not going to get an email right away about your recording because it's not a Google product. And yeah, saving your recordings to your desktop and then uploading them into your Drive. So it's not just a one-step message right into your Drive. So there are some disadvantages to that. So this summer, you know, it might be nice to practice, but please, if you're working with any students this summer for any work, please don't use Zoom until it's in place.
And then we have a question about, do you have to record meetings? No. So if you were say using Pear Deck and you weren't having any student faces, but you were doing that live, you were turning off the video, you would record that, and that's a session for tomorrow. But maybe you would record your session and your lecture and your use of the slides and post that so students could watch it later and use Pear Deck with it, for example. But if it's a student discussion, then I would think not. So it just depends. But no, you're not certainly not required to record meetings. If you were using Zoom to record something for students to watch later, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So there was a question earlier about, when you're scheduling a Google Meet, you can do that right in Google Classroom. You can post the link right in Google Classroom, or it just appears in the header there for you. In your Google Calendar, you just click that button to add Google Meet. So it's really pretty seamless. So because Zoom is not a Google product, it's a little harder to use. But you can add an extension. We found one called Zoom Scheduler that we both have now. We put the extension onto our Chrome browser, and then it allows us to get that button, if you see in the bottom corner there, make it a Zoom meeting. And so we can schedule right in our calendar. And then when you schedule an event in your calendar, and I think this is on the next page, notice that, right, I can make it a Zoom meeting, but I could still start typing the name of my Google Classroom, Advanced Awesomeness. I wish I had the talent to teach advanced band, but I don't. And choose that and email your students and let them know about your meeting, or grab the link and post that in your Google Classroom. So yes, you can integrate Zoom with Google and Google Calendar and Classroom. It's just not quite as simple, but that Chrome extension is working really well. And then when I use the Chrome scheduler, note that it does immediately give me options for how I want to set up my meeting. So let's say if I wanted to let students join before me, which I probably wouldn't, or I wanted to make sure everybody came in quietly, I could enable those options. I could have a meeting password. I could do all these settings when I set up my meeting.
And so additional security and settings, I think maybe this is the same. Is this the same slide or a little bit different? Same thing, just making sure that when you set things up, you enable that waiting room, and you can even require a password if you want to, and so forth.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that might be the same slide.
Just a little more
just more about security and settings, right?
There are lots and lots of settings.
And to go with that, the host, we mentioned before, can have a lot of control over the meeting. So on the left-hand side, if you see, I happen to be the host, and you can make someone the co-host as well. So if you were working with another staff member, and then you have the ability to, you can mute certain people, you can turn off their video. Somebody had asked about people chatting with one another. So on the right-hand side, that darker image there, saving the chat, you can control who's chatting. Again, you can mute participants when they enter. It might get a little bit annoying to play a sound when someone joins or leaves, but maybe you would want that. Allowing participants to rename themselves, you probably don't want them to rename themselves. It depends, but you have lots of different settings, locking the meetings and so forth.
Yeah, and we had a question, can you change the settings mid-meeting? You absolutely can. Yeah.
And you can even, if you have to leave the meeting, like if I had to leave the meeting, I could make Miranda the host and the next person the co-host, so you can hand the host settings over to someone else.
And do note that the co-host is not equally powerful as the host. It sounds like they are maybe, but they don't have quite all of the the controls.
And then these are just some more host controls. And so you can see the host has this dashboard down below, and just kind of shows how you can open up the participants. And with the participants box, that's where you can see where participants are maybe raising their hand or answering a question, asking you to go slower, go faster. There's that chat control. And so it's just a nice dashboard that you have down at the bottom of your screen as the host.
And then I wanted to talk about breakout rooms. And I realized I'm not sure if we talked about the most important features, which are, of course, the backgrounds, but I think that's what everyone is excited about in Zoom. If you have a messy room, you can throw up a background, but you can also give students more privacy in that they'll have the ability to have some kind of background. But breakout rooms are also really exciting. I don't know what the policy will be as far as can we have students go alone into breakout rooms. The host can pop into breakout rooms at any time. So that would be a question for district policymakers as far as using breakout rooms. But it is pretty exciting that you can assign participants to the breakout rooms or you can randomize. So however you wanted to do grouping. I think it's great for small group discussion and more student interaction. And there's a help button so they can summon the teacher. And as the teacher, you can pop around into different breakout rooms. You do have to be the host to do that. You can set a time period to bring everybody back together. You can send messages to everybody in the breakout rooms and say, okay, this is the thing that you should be talking about right now. And you can go around through the rooms. So we did test the breakout rooms on Chromebooks, on all the different kinds of Chromebooks we have to make sure that it would work for us. So it does work on the student Chromebooks. And students don't have to download software to use Zoom. They can use it in their browser.
Mm-hmm.
More about the breakout rooms. Here's just some examples. So in this one, we have breakout room 1, 2, and 3. You can move people around. You can broadcast a message to all. So I sent a message to that group, get to work. And then you can see how I was able to reassign people to different rooms.
We have a lot going on in the chat right now. About breakout rooms, I just wanted to point a couple of things out. So first of all, there was a question about comments in the chat. You can hover over individual comments and delete them from the chat. Thank you, Julia, for that. Also, Mark was asking, can you send everyone to a separate room? I think theoretically, if you created enough rooms, you could technically send everybody to a different room. And then Todd Morgan chimed in and said he was thinking about using renaming the option to allow people to choose what room they wanted to go to so that the teacher could sort people out by name. I thought that was a really cool idea. Just wanted to check that out. And then Rhonda was asking, can you take a roll or attendance with these meetings?
Oh, good question. I had looked into that earlier and there was a way to do that, but I don't remember what it was. But I believe so. And that's when I'd have to check on the directions. Really good question.
And I saw, and Chris, maybe you answered this, or maybe we're not sure yet. Somebody, Mark asked, will the settings from one meeting default to the next meeting? Or can we set our own defaults? I'm not sure if Zoom is sticky or if you reset it each time.
I believe, I'm almost positive that you can set up all your own preferences and settings. When we looked at the Beaverton setup, they had like, this is what it should be set up as. I'm not sure if we can control that as far as setting everyone's settings to a certain default, but if we could, that would be great.
Yeah, and we're going to go back through the chat and make sure that we are going through questions. So if we don't have the answer to your question, we can take it offline and do some research and post it in a document like we did for Google Classroom as well. Larry's raising his hand.
And Chris, the question about EAs and SEAs getting accounts, and I've got that question sent off, and we will respond to it shortly or in a timely manner.
And I will say, if you're meeting one-on-one with students or in very small groups, maybe you don't need all the features. Not that you shouldn't have a pro Zoom account, just that the features get less useful for smaller groups.
Right.
All right. So we have some clips and demos here, which we won't go into. Let's see. Oh, David's asking, can you have all the breakout rooms open on your screen? No, you could join the meeting with multiple devices and be in every room simultaneously, though with the audio all playing, yeah. I haven't seen a way to do that. Okay. Oh, okay. Adam has a great suggestion. So we might have to look into that one a little more. You can certainly pop in and out of different rooms. You can send messages and bring students back, but can you monitor all of your breakout rooms at once? We'll have to figure out how to do that. And then I also want to make sure we hear from some of the teachers who have used Zoom before and like it or don't. So I think that's coming right up.
Okay. All right. Good timing.
Go ahead and jump in if you have something to say about Zoom. You want to tell everyone why you like it. There were a couple of people I know were going to come to this and chime in.
I can say a few words. First of all, let me say to Miranda and Carrie and Larry and Chris, thank you for all of this. I am so impressed with all of these trainings and videos with your patience. None of this is easy, that what you guys are doing. So thank you for all of that. And I would say, I'll just tell everybody really quickly, I was in a giant meeting with 300 people and they set up breakout rooms for all of us. And I got a pop-up message. It put me into it. It was set to a time frame. We got a warning it was going to end. It bounced us back into the whole group then meeting, which I think as teachers is exactly what we want. You can control that. The kids have a set time. They bounce back into the whole class thing. And then we can do all these different things with it, which we would normally be doing in our classrooms face-to-face, but now we can do it in this way. And so I think that for me is one of the real powers of this. And I was able to have like different tabs with different small breakout rooms open. I just had to mute them all because otherwise the audio is on and you hear this cacophony of sound. And I have a question to the four of you, which is, well, I guess it's two. Are we going to hopefully maybe get a plan on just like the things from our district or our schools or from central office that says like, this is what you're using and this is the parameters, so we're consistent? And secondly, our PD in August, when a lot of us forget all these great things you just showed us for the last week, are we going to have like sessions that bring us back to all these things?
Yeah. Where we're at in the process and our team is, as far as our team can say where we're at, is that we are researching options and we are suggesting tools that would work ubiquitously for people or at secondary or at primary. So we have sent a list of the tools that we think would be most useful district-wide up to CO for looking at the budget. Right now, they're in the middle of looking at the budget and seeing what we can afford and what tools we can purchase. And so that's as much as we know. You know as much as we do at this point. As we go forward, yes, when we know what tools we will have, I'm sure that there will be some messaging saying, here's what you have. We are trying to structure this PD around tools that we either know you will have access to either for free or paid subscriptions and will be useful. And we don't anticipate everyone to be an expert. If you've noticed that these are not expert level like trainings, these are just like, this is what we're going to have. This is what's working for us. Let's just get together and celebrate what works. As we find out more about the capacity of the tools that we're going to have and the licensing that we're going to have, we will be making information available. I don't know what the scope of that professional development would be, but I'm pretty sure that this team will be involved in the creation of resources and communication around what tools we have and how to use them better. And of course, we will be there to help you along the way next year.
Yes.
So
Jen Sheely is saying, yes, we'll have guideposts for the programs. We'll create consistency across the system, and we will have refresher PD in August. So that's great. And Adam, I want to say thank you to you too. Your contributions have been amazing, and also just your reminders that we don't have to use every tool and learn every tool right now. So thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about Zoom and why they like it or use it or have used it in the past? Okay, we'll move on to Loom, but if anybody wants to come back to Zoom, we're more than happy to do that. Oh, backgrounds, yes, those are super fun, and also nice when your house is maybe not too neat. All right. Okay, so we are going to move on to, I did want to share, we have the Beaverton School District resources with their kind of basics and settings. There is a lot to learn with Zoom. And so definitely nobody's expected to know all the settings that you need to have on or off, and remember that until August. And do remember that you can keep using Google Meet. That's not a problem until you feel comfortable with Zoom. Nice. Oh, and Zoom is also supposed to have a softening feature that touches
doorway effect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, could also be important. All right. We're moving on.
Yeah, so we're back to that let's be real concept that we launched this week with the other day on Tuesday, relationships. How do you make meaningful connections with students? And so certainly Meeting Live works with that, and screencasting can also do that. Keeping your expectations clear and keeping your digital classroom organized, your alignment, how do you work as a team to deliver a consistent experience? And then learning opportunities, how do you offer multiple modes of learning and feedback? And so now we're going to talk about Loom, and also put in a plug for Edpuzzle as well. Miranda put some slides in for that as well.
Okay, so, oh, sorry, that's still you.
Oh yeah, that's okay. So screencasting with Loom. Now, I'm a little bit new to Loom myself, and remember, you don't have to learn it all. I was getting going with Screencastify and being really happy with that. Although now that I've been using Loom, there's so many great features. So we'll talk about those. You can, as we mentioned, you can record your Zoom session using Screencastify for short videos. if you'd rather do that, or you can switch over to Loom for that asynchronous. So remember, that's the learning and the teaching that is happening kind of on everybody's own schedule through videos, Flipgrid responses. It doesn't have to be immediate. It can kind of go at everybody's own pace or what's going on with them, and it's nice to learn and relearn. Some advantages to Loom.
Okay, so that was just actually what the question was. So Screencastify is currently free. There's a code, which I think I have in another slide, but it may not stay free. And because Loom is such a great tool, it made sense to use Loom. Of course, if you're making short videos, if they're going to be under 5 minutes anyway, Screencastify is still a great option. The Google Meet record button may go away after September 30th. So if you've been using Google Meet to record, that may or may not stay as an option. There are workarounds, but they might not be super easy. Let's see. So screencasting with Loom has some really nice advantages. For example, it has those built-in editing tools, which are actually better than Screencastify. One thing I like is you can choose the thumbnail. Do you know how when you post a video, it usually catches you with your mouth open? Sure. So the little thumbnail that appears on the screen is like, oh, really? So Loom will let you edit and change that. One thing that's also nice is you can track who views your videos. So you can see that, I have 30 students in my class. I've only had 6 views on my video. Something's going on there. It's really easy to share the links. So that is an advantage. Okay, so how do you use Loom? There's several options. There's the Chrome extension, so you can just Google Loom Chrome extension and install that. There's an iPad app. If you're using a laptop, you will want to download the software for your Mac or PC. It's got higher quality video and more options. So there's also a little link there to compare the 3. But I would say if you've got a laptop, go ahead and download the software in addition to the extension. And the extension will let you start it up. And Chris may have something to add on this, but basically you do want to use the software on your teacher laptop.
Yeah, the Loom extension works exactly like Screencastify. It just hangs out in your Chrome browser. You click on it. You have all the same options like with Screencastify. The actual downloaded software allows higher quality video recording. So I have been using the Loom, like the software that I've downloaded for my Mac. The software also includes some annotation features. So as you're screen recording, you can take a little pencil and circle some stuff too. So I really like actually downloading the full software package and using that. It's just been a little bit more powerful than the Chrome extension. The iPad app I have also tried. It doesn't function in the way that you think it would. It kind of just turns on the screen recording on your iPad and then just kind of like sends it to Loom. So it's not like super powerful. There's not much difference in that, but so I think that the best way to do it is probably just the Mac or PC software that you download for free, and then we get the free accounts with it and verify that you're a teacher and you're good.
Yeah, and it is a free option, which is one reason to choose it over Screencastify, because they do say they will remain free. So that's one reason we chose and recommended it. It's not a paid district option, but it's one that we're recommending if you're for screencasting. Though there are other options. Yeah, they're saying they'll remain free. All right.
Okay, so some differences that you'll notice with Loom. Loom will store your videos in its own cloud. It does not save directly to Google Drive, but you can download into Drive, upload. You can't save it directly to YouTube, how like Screencastify had that option that you could save it into YouTube, but you can certainly then go and upload it into YouTube. And Loom does let you see who has watched your videos, how many views you have, which is nice. And there are, I think we have it on another slide. You can set up folders in your Loom account. Like you could certainly in Google Drive too, but you could set up folders of your recordings, which is nice. And I think on another slide when we get there, it gives you the option of attaching the video link right onto the document. Maybe that if you were doing a screencast, say, of slides, you could attach the video link right on there. It gives you that option, which is nice. Okay.
Sorry, mic was off. It does tell you, Carrie, if you could go back one slide.
Sure, yeah.
On the right there, you see a screenshot. I got a notification that someone had watched my video. So you can see the names. It doesn't track it like these people watched it, these didn't. So it's not quite at that level. And it also doesn't tell me, did they watch the whole thing? So if you really want to make sure that students are watching the videos, something like Edpuzzle would be a great option, which we believe will be a paid district option for you. So there you go. Yeah. Okay, so what if you do want to make your screencast interactive? Students are saying that, just here's a long video of a lecture is obviously not as engaging as here's information, here's a video, here's a screencast, and they're able to interact with that. So tomorrow there'll be a session on Pear Deck, which is amazing, and a way for students to interact either live or later on. And then Edpuzzle is one that we'll have, and it's an optional PD, but highly recommended. We had 2 teachers who made great screencasts to add to that, so you can see exactly how they're using it. And Edpuzzle will let you see exactly who has watched the video, what their answers are to open-ended or multiple choice questions. It just allows you to make sure that students are seeing and understanding. Yeah, thank you to Kiki and to Brittany Larson for doing that. Here is this will be on the losdlogic.org page for the optional PD, but I highly recommend it. And then you can also view the Edpuzzle PD as an actual Edpuzzle. That one I did not set to require that you watch all of the video. You can have students, you can set it so that students have to watch. I could have said you have to watch all 38 minutes to get through it. I do actually let you fast forward to the good parts, which is Kiki and Brittany. But you'll see if you try it as an Edpuzzle that you can answer questions, get feedback, all of that, and see what your students, how they're responding. It's really amazing. A couple of people just chimed in, I think, to say they love Edpuzzle. Students love Edpuzzle. It's just really great. And if you use that link on the slide or on the LOSD Logic page, you'll go in kind of anonymously with a link. But if you are using it with your students, you can really track them. They'll have accounts, and it integrates really well with Google Classroom.
So Miranda and Chris mentioned there are 2 ways to access Loom. You can probably the best way if you've got your laptop is to do the app. It's better video quality, but there is also the Chrome extension, and there are links to get both of those on this slide. And the Chrome extension then would just live up with your extension on your extension bar there. So those are, I don't know if this is okay, Chris would know better. I put both on my my Mac, on my Air Mac.
I have both. I have both too. I just end up using the software more.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
And then during one of our Wednesday workshops, Russ Irwin at Lake Grove had done a session on using Loom. So we added his session on the slide, and he'll go through making the video and also doing some trimmings, because you can edit your Loom. The thing about Screencastify is you could trim the beginning or the end, but maybe not take out something in the middle. And with Loom, you can do a little bit more advanced editing.
Yeah, that's great. And although I have learned from this whole experience that the less editing you do, the better. Sometimes you just like don't try to take out all your fumbles and mistakes. And
right, exactly. Just like what you were
it is
doing in the classroom, right? So when you open up Loom, whether through the app or the extension, you'll see it kind of is similar to if you were using Screencastify. You have the option to share just your screen, or you can have your webcam going. And I did see a comment about research, that shows is a thumbnail of yourself presenting distracting. So that's a good question, but you can certainly turn, you don't have to have your thumbnail. What I like is you can also take your thumbnail and you can kind of drag it to where you want on the screen. You can shrink it. So over on the right-hand side, that was me on a slideshow. You can address that circle and position it where you'd like. And then you actually have the controls of the recording, the little mini controls right next to your thumbnail too, where you see those 3 dots and the X and the pause and the play. That's a quick way for you to control your recording.
Nice. And Chris, did you want to say something about iPads? Oh, and Larry wants to say something as well.
Somebody had a question, what do we recommend for iPads? And it just really depends on where you want it saved. If you want it saved, to your, remember we were talking that Loom saves videos into your Loom account in the Loom cloud, then you can use that Loom app and it just like streamlines that. But if you just want it on your iPad, just use the iPad screen recorder because it's kind of the same thing. And then I was just going to mention about the Loom cameras and the little bubble options. Loom gives you 3 different sizes of those windows, so you can increase or decrease your prominence in the frame, which is really nice. Or it allows you to just go full screen with your face, where there's that camera only, so you can kind of switch around between options if you need to be like, hey, here's my face. Hey, here's my slides. So Loom is really cool with that. Larry?
Oh, we'll give him a minute to come back while we're waiting to see if Larry wants to say something. I wanted to point out that students have these, both Screencastify and Loom is enabled, the Chrome extension. So if you want students to record screencasts or videos, to send you. Like if you're just doing video, you might want to use Flipgrid, but if you're having them explain something, teach something, Screencastify and Loom are both enabled for school devices and school accounts. So students can add these extensions as well and make screencasts, and it's a great way for them to explain something or give a speech or whatever it is they need to do. You notice you can do the cam only, you can do the screen, you can do both. All right.
And it will look very familiar when you go to share your screen, just like if you've ever recorded with Google Meet or Screencastify. So it gives you that option to share your whole screen or just share one window.
Okay, and then the editing features. So you can trim, you can put a link, a call to action, like a link at the end, like now go do this, which is great. You can, I mentioned the custom thumbnail. So if you make a video and sometimes it, the first image people see when you embed it or use that video is not super flattering. You'll notice on the Edpuzzle slide, for example, I had that yellow slide that explained where each part of the presentation was. So I was able to add that as a custom thumbnail. Like here's what I want to show up when people first go to my video.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sharing options. So Loom helpfully offers to, I made a screencast using our library software, and it said, hey, do you want to include the link to that? I could just click to add that to my post. You can set your link sharing to public or private, or just the people with the link, or does it appear in a Google search? You can also set a password if you want, which made me think of the elementary teachers talking about how they would make a video and kind of say a secret password at some point to make sure students are watching the video. And I was thinking, oh, you could use a password, sort of a treasure hunt. Do you know the password to go see the video? Things like that. And so lots of great options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I mentioned they on the Loom homepage, you can set up folders for yourself if you want to organize your videos that way.
Right. So that is one difference, is it doesn't save it to your Google Drive the way that Screencastify will. So it's posted on the Loom site, which allows you to see who's watched it and all of that.
So yeah, it's just a little bit different workflow for your data, because before we were using like Screencastify, it would upload directly to Drive. You could share it directly from your Drive. That was kind of a nice thing. Or you could download it and upload it to YouTube and then share the YouTube link. That's fine. If you were sharing to YouTube, then Loom would work the same way. You would record it, it would save to Loom, you would download it, and then you would upload it to YouTube. So same kind of process there. The thing that some teachers have found really nice about Loom is that they haven't been uploading to YouTube as much, because Loom just gives you a live link to the video. So if you're fine hosting your video in Loom, then just leave it in Loom, that's fine. And the nice thing about Loom is that there's like no advertisements on the video. I know that some teachers were concerned about, like, if I share a YouTube link, either maybe there's going to put advertisements or suggestions on the screen. But if you share a Loom link directly, there's no advertisement, there's no suggestion, it's just a link to your video. So that's kind of a nice feature about hosting your video in the Loom cloud. But if you really needed to get it into YouTube to do things like embedding it in Google Slides or using it on a Google site or something like that, then you just download it from Loom and then just upload it to YouTube. It doesn't take too long. So just a little bit of a shift here.
Yeah, and if you look right under the right-hand side of the video there, you've got a little download button and then a duplicate trash. It's right above the move to folder. So you can download it and then upload it to your Drive or to YouTube or wherever. I think most of us are probably just going to use that blue copy link button and post the link to Google Classroom or Seesaw for the elementary. So yeah, pretty easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one quick thing, people may have noticed there are some emojis under that video there, and that's part of settings. In the settings, you can set up if you want students to react to videos and so forth. You can turn, you can have that happen, or you can turn those settings off too.
Who would give my videos a thumbs down? Especially an exciting one, like how to run a report in the library.
Yeah, how to run a textbook report. Thumbs up.
Absolutely. Okay.
And so again, in terms of like, oh, there's so many tools out there. Can you still use Screencastify? Yes. There is still the COVID code for premium use. I'm not sure how long that code will be in place, but for now it still is. And you will have free access. There's a very cool submit feature for students. where they can submit recordings. And then, like Chris mentioned, you can save Screencastify to your drive or put into YouTube. Now, even when the paid features go away, you will still have unlimited recordings. You'll still be able to trim, and you'll still be able to probably use it the way you were. The only restriction is it will have a 5-minute limit.
So talk fast.
It's talk fast, right? And so it's
keep them short.
Still maybe, great for lots of you are doing a quick intro or a quick message at the beginning of a lesson. It's, still if you're using Screencastify and you love it, just keep using it.
And there was a question about embedding into slides, for example. So Loom can't be, the only thing we can embed directly into a Google slide is something that's on YouTube, I believe. Chris can let me know if that's not correct. So you do have to put things onto YouTube first and then embed in a slide.
Yes, correct, Miranda. So yeah, if you wanted to get something embedded in the slide, you would just download it and then upload it. But it's the same with like Screencastify. If your video is hanging out in your Google Drive, there's no direct way to get it from Drive into YouTube. So I've been downloading it and then uploading it into YouTube, unless I missed something. But yes, so it's the same step, just from a different place. Just download it from Loom, which takes a minute, and then just upload it to YouTube, and then you can embed it in your slides.
Screencastify does let you upload directly to YouTube as long as you do it when you make the recording. So like if you make the recording and then you click send to YouTube, you can do that. But if you've already put it in your drive and you move on, then you have to go through the multi-step process. All right.
Okay. I have a very basic tech question myself. With Loom, now that you can choose your own thumbnail, as say the preview, if I go back to this slide, if that's that slide of Miranda's recording, the thumbnail was the library homepage or something, could I take that thumbnail and put that into a Google slide as a thumbnail image, or no?
Huh.
Does that make sense?
You could do a screenshot of the.
But then it wouldn't.
But it wouldn't, and then you could link. But yeah, it wouldn't be the same as inserting it. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think. So we've got about 3 minutes left. I was a little worried we wouldn't fill up the hour, but no problem. Okay. So can we still use Google Meet? Yes. The screen recording button may go away on September 30th. That is what Google is saying right now. We don't pay for the premium Google Suite, so they were giving us some advanced features. That is really the only key one. You can't do live streaming anymore after September 30th, but that's probably not something we were doing a lot anyway. But there are ways to screen record, so I just have a quick link to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Questions, comments, anybody? I know some people have posted that they've been using Loom. If anybody wants to jump in.
While we're waiting for a question, I think, the takeaways from this meeting are that the way we're doing stuff is shifting slightly next year. All the skills that we have about running a meeting, scheduling a meeting, or screen recording ourselves, those are all valid skills that you have worked on and honed, and those will be, useful next year. The platforms we're using might shift. So we're shifting from Google Meet to Zoom, but it'll give you a lot more control over your meetings. So we're just taking that to the next level. And then when it comes to screencasting, we're shifting our recommendation because Loom is free. It has a little bit more powerful tools. We know it's going to be free, and Screencastify might not be. So we're just kind of shifting recommendations. But all these tools work very similarly, just giving you a heads up that we're shifting our recommendations just due to shifting circumstances. But all of the skills that you have, you can do them on any platforms. We know that you can. And if you want help with them, please let us know, and we will give you individual help getting started on any of these things. We have some questions coming into the chat.
I think mostly about how do we know for sure that Loom will stay free, the concern being because they're hosting our videos, is there a chance we could lose them? We are taking them at their word that they will stay free, and we will not lose our videos even if we were to lose some of the advanced features or they were to shift to more premium paid. You know, Google, all of our Google features are free to us. You know, why does Google provide them free? Well, that they like our business, they like our customers. But yeah, exactly. They use our data. All right.
Dan had asked me when I mentioned the research about the thumbnail being distracting. I had seen a question earlier in the chat about someone mentioning that or reading research. So I was just responding that you could turn your webcam off if you just wanted to have your screen shown.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have a choice on that. I think we're going to wrap up because it is 9 o'clock. Thank you so much, everybody. This recording and the slideshow will be up on the LOSD Logic site. Thank you for coming. I hope it was useful. I know we'll have to talk about this more next year because there's no way we'll all remember everything from today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.